And we have Charean Williams with us here on Thursday morning to look back on what happened with the Cowboys and kind of spin things forward for the Cowboys and for Micah Parsons. Good morning, Charean. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Good, Mike. Thanks for having me.
What was your big takeaway from the Micah Parsons return to Dallas? I know you were there for the game and you were actually in a position to, watch the game. We're in a green room watching it on TV. It was no different than being anywhere else. But from your perspective, how did it feel to see Micah Parsons out there in that cavernous stadium wearing green and gold?
It looks strange, to be honest. And, you're waiting for the reaction when he comes out. Now, there were a big contingent of Packers fans there, as expected. And so I don't know how many Cowboys fans cheered, how many booed, but they're definitely in the entire crowd were more cheers than boos. But just seeing him in that number one green and gold, it just didn't look right. And, it's the first time, if you look back on players that Jerry has had that he's wanted to keep, he's kept them, and he's done. And this is the first player that I think he wanted to keep. He offered him a contract in April. I really think he wanted to keep Micah Parsons, and so this is the first one that he's seen walk away from him. And walk away, I mean trade him, because they couldn't come to an agreement in the history that he's owned the team since 1989. So it played out far differently than any other contract negotiation ever that he's had. And it ended different, I think, than any other contract negotiation that he's ever had.
And, this really is the first time that Jerry negotiating directly with the player blew up in his face to this extent. In the past, he's tried to do it with Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, and they just refused to give in. But in the past, the negotiation eventually would pivot to the agents, and they would get deals done. In Zeke's case, after a holdout, and in Dak's case, once the Cowboys realized they had waited so long, they had screwed themselves and painted themselves into a corner, and they had to just cough up money to Dak. But I think the difference here, plain and simple, is this idea that somehow Micah had said the magic words to Jerry and it was gotcha. We got a contract and we have nothing else to talk about. We just need to reduce that contract to writing. And it really was, in hindsight, it was just basically petulant and immature for Jerry to never step off of that.
Yeah, completely agree, Mike. I don't understand why he wouldn't call the agent and negotiate a contract. I don't understand it, unless maybe he didn't want to keep Micah in the end. Maybe that was his best and final offer, and he said, if he doesn't take that, I'm going to walk away. They did do that with running back Murray. They did do it with him, D'Amico Murray. They offered him a contract and said, take it or leave it. And he went to Philadelphia, and it turned out to be a good move for them. I don't think this is going to turn out the way that one turned out. But maybe that was it, because it doesn't make any sense that you wouldn't call and talk to the agent. It just doesn't make any sense that you offer a contract in April and there's no negotiations from April to the time you trade him. Didn't even talk to Micah Parsons. I don't understand, unless you thought you were going to trade him if he wasn't going to accept that deal. And you should have known in April he wasn't going to accept that deal. And you would have gotten a better deal trading him in April than you got trading him when you traded him August 28th. And the fact, I just always look at that Laramie Tunsil trade. The Dolphins traded him to the Texans. The Dolphins got more for Laramie Tunsil, an okay left tackle, not going in the Hall of Fame, than the Cowboys got for Micah Parsons. I just can't wrap my head around that.
I think that once it became clear to Jerry that Michael wasn't going to sign a deal based upon whatever he supposedly agreed to when they met earlier this year, I think the Cowboys were going to try to kick the can through 2025 at the fifth-year option and then trade him after the season. And when they recognized he wasn't going to play because of a back injury that had enough substance to it to justify not playing, that's when they threw their hands in the air and cried uncle and traded him to a team that that still hasn't lost in AT&T Stadium dating back to Super Bowl 45. Let's hear from Jerry earlier this week, I believe on 105.3 The Fan, discussing his position on why a phone call wasn't made to Micah Parsons to let him know that he'd been traded to the Packers.
No, I don't. I really don't want to respond to that at all. I'm in deference to you very much. But that phone call thing got stopped when he told me to take his number off my dial. So I was, don't call him anymore. So I quit those calls.
And that's that. It's funny. I don't want to comment on it. Here's why I didn't call him.
Yeah, right.
Has there ever been a time, I guess it's happened if we just don't notice it. I'm not going to comment on that, and that's the end of it. Especially with a guy like Jerry. I really don't want to talk about that, so let me go ahead and talk about it for 30 seconds.
Yeah, Jerry generally talks about everything, whatever you want him to talk about, whenever you want to talk about it. And that's generally what happens. If he doesn't want to talk about something, well, I'm not going to comment on that. And then he spends sometimes more than 30 seconds talking about it. Yeah, that's Jerry.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.